There are definitely some really moments in Bosco and Bruno. As an overarching narrative, it's not that great, but each section is pretty good. My heart was in my mouth at one point. There are some beautiful bits of animation, so I will discuss those with a spoiler warning in a moment. But first of all, this was released in 1932. It's directed by Hugh Harman, and we have Johnny Murray voicing Bosco, and the overarching narrative isn't that interesting. It's Bosco and his dog Bruno out and about encountering different things, and together I don't really feel like they're very well connected. I kind of understand what they're going with. This is kind of Bosco and Bruno out for a walk, and these are the things they encounter along their way, and it's a crazy adventure. But for me, I don't love the different sections as a whole, but independently I did, and I will go into more detail about those in a moment. But actually, other than that, it is pretty good, and there are some bits of animation that I loved. So if you haven't seen it and you're a Bosco fan, I'd say it's definitely worth checking out. And I will now mention in more detail what happens with this and talk about some things that I really enjoyed. So it starts off with Bosco and Bruno walking along a train track, always a terrible idea, and along comes the train. And the animation of the train is beautiful. And this is the bit where my heart went in my mouth. And this is everything I'm going to say from now on is a spoiler. And the train is coming, and Bruno's paw is stuck in the track, and I felt sick just because of the thought of that ever actually happening. If a dog's paw actually becoming stuck in it, no, I can't think about it. And it was a horrific moment. Obviously, Bruno is absolutely fine, but it was not a pleasant thing to watch. They then move on, and we have some beautiful animation through a tunnel. I think that was very, very well animated. They then encounter a chicken or a hen. Bruno has some fun with it. It was fine. I didn't find it to be that interesting, but it was okay. And then ultimately we end back on the train track. And the animation of the track is so stunning. It reminds me of if you've ever been on a roller coaster, like a 3D simulator, or even if you watch somebody's roller coaster ride on YouTube from the front seats, and it's kind of like that experience. And I think that's why I really enjoyed it, because it kind of felt like that. But it was beautifully, beautifully animated. The actual action isn't that interesting, and that's kind of how I feel about the whole thing. The most suspenseful or action-packed bit was Bruno with his paw stuck, and I hated it. I hated that moment because of how it made me feel, but it was emotionally very well done. So there are some really stunning bits of animation in this. The overarching narrative is a bit weak, and I feel like they just had a bunch of ideas and kind of just threw them all together into one cartoon. And as I said, I guess it kind of works. It's just Bosco and Bruno out for a walk, and this is the chaotic experience that they have. But for me personally, I prefer something maybe just a little bit more well-structured than this. But as I said, there are some beautiful bits of animation, so I can't complain too much. Ultimately, I enjoyed it. By the time I got to the end of it, I thought, yeah, that was not a bad cartoon. So if you're looking for a well-animated animation, and if you're a fan of Bosco, or even if you're new to Bosco, then I'd say Bosco and Bruno is one that's definitely worth checking out. I did enjoy it, but it's not perfect.